for this AI era, you can create custom agents. You can do
Yeah.
things where as long as it's not proprietary information that you're putting out there, and you have to put some kind of boundaries around it
Mhm,
because for the experts, you want to protect your intellectual property,
mhm,
and for the audience that you're working with, I almost look at it from HIPAA standards, where it's
mm,
like there is some information that I can share, and there's some information that I can absolutely not share.
yeah,
So when we get to that point where you start to systematize things and you start looking for different partners and ways to be able to get the things done, when you go from running the business to trying to figure out how you're going to own the business and have a life, then this is where some of those things kick in. So AI has been great for me because I will find a hole, a blind spot, and say, oh, yeah, I have to fix that. I have to plug that.
mhm,
And one of the things I'll do is I will train it to be able to take care of that task. And
yeah,
once I train it to take care of that task, then it frees me up to be able to see all the other things.
mhm,
For lack of a better way to put it, the forest for the trees. Then I can see things because I removed an obstacle. I have a clearer view of the full landscape, and it allows me to be able to start picking up on the other things I want to do. And in some cases, what I tell people is, in those situations where I may come in and there's the DIY, there's done with you and done for you,
mhm,
I define done for the people that gotten to the point where they have more money than they have time, and
mhm,
they realize they're prioritizing other things in their life, and they're like,
mhm,
"I don't need to know how to do it. I just need to know that it's being done and
mhm,
done well enough to be able to meet the standards and expectations that I have and my audience has." So
mhm,
when I get to that point, it's really just a matter of kind of explaining, my job is to make it so that you don't have to think about it
mhm,
and know that you don't have to look over your shoulder when it comes down to it.
mhm,
And when you're outsourcing or if you're training AI and stuff like that, if you can't train it to be able to do something that you don't have to look at, then you're probably giving it the wrong task. You
mhm,
should probably give it something where it's something that it's operations, it's administrative, it's something where there's if when type of knowledge. So if
yeah,
this happens, then do this. But if it requires strategic thinking or more of you and the creativity, that's where my trust issues kick back in. I am not trusting it to think for me because there is a saying that I saw in a movie, The Contender, that I love. And it was, I am guilty but not responsible, and I am responsible but not guilty.
yeah,
I would be guilty and responsible for outsourcing to something to someone and not thinking about what effect it would have on everyone involved in that process.
mhm,
But if I am outsourcing something to someone or something, then I'm responsible for what it does, but I may not be guilty of what it does. So it almost goes back to that employee mindset of you can make a mistake in a job. The CEO or the owner may not be guilty of whatever was done, but they're responsible for it
mhm,
and they're accountable for the
yep,
results. So same thing is just making sure that you understand it. I'm one of I love movies and there's just always quotes, but like No Country for Old Men, there's a scene where the guy goes in the gas station. He's like, "Oh, heads or tails." And the guy's like, "Oh, well, I got to understand what I stand to gain." I was like, "That dude is creepy. He looks like he's problems. I need to understand what I stand to lose."
right,
I am not a going to the casino kind of guy. If I'm going there, I'm going there to have dinner. I'm going there to enjoy the time.
yeah,
But I understand I'm walking in there going, your job is to separate me from my money. So
yeah,
I'm always thinking about the consequences of what my actions are as
mhm,
opposed to what I stand to gain. And I think that's where understanding mindsets and understanding where you are in life is
mhm,
important. That's why I like to have conversations. Give me the context of the surrounding circumstances. What I think some of what you described is there's a difference between taking risk,
mhm,
mitigating risk, and taking calculated risk. So when
yes,
we're talking about moving at a certain pace, we're not telling you to hesitate so that you miss an opportunity. We're saying calculate the risk, calculate the consequences of getting it wrong and the
mhm,
consequences of getting it right. So there are some things where you may choose to do something and it's great. Like you know what? Everything took off, but are you built to scale?
yes,
Because if you have a really great idea and all of a sudden there's a demand for it, but you can't meet that demand, then it can actually be your undoing
yeah,
because then you've ruined the customer experience. People are
mhm,
coming to you and they say, think about the great restaurants and you go in and you're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. I'm
yeah,
looking forward to this. And they say there's an hour wait. And my stomach is telling me that I am not going to wait an hour to be able to eat, no matter how much I want to enjoy that specific meal. I'm going to
mhm,
end up going someplace else.
yes, that's true, and I
So,
mean, that's what we do when we begin to start that journey.
mm,
You don't know it when you
yeah.
start, You don't know it when you start. I didn't know it when I started. I didn't know. I just had a skill that I knew was valuable.
Mhm,
That's it. That's all I knew. And until I started walking the path,
mhm.
making the decisions, taking a look at the patterns,
Yes.
then I began to go, huh.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's how I got to here
Yeah,
in the middle.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, don't sell yourself short because the is not only seeing it, but is documenting it and
Yes.
recognizing I am not going to do that again.
I
Or
am
I
not.
love the way that went, so I will absolutely do that again
Yes.
and make sure that it works out the way that it's supposed to work out.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I think this is a good point to kind of put a pin in that portion of the conversation and really just say, okay, by the end of this episode, you'll understand the two most common timing mistakes that people make in major decisions and how to recognize which trap you're more prone to fall into. I think that actually sums it up
Right.
because we're talking about what happens when you move too fast and we're talking
Mhm,
about what happens when you slow down. But what happens in the middle is the understanding of consequences,
mhm,
the gathering of context,
mhm.
and making sure that you truly understand what it is that you're looking at. Because once you do, then you have the clarity to be able to make more competent decisions. I have what I call the four C's. I love frameworks because they're easier to remember. And one of the things that I've learned in my business is people don't necessarily like to follow instructions, especially
True.
early stage businesses. On the corporate side, I can hand somebody some instructions and they would pay me royally for it.
Yeah.
But on the entrepreneurial side, it's that again, I want to be the hero in the story. And I'm going into business to be my own business owner, to pick everything and make the choices in my life, that responsibility and accountability. But what they don't want is someone dictating what their business is going to look like. And they're just an employee in what they're laying out for them. So I had
Mhm,
to learn to switch from instructions to guidelines because
mhm,
I realized I would give people instructions and then they would turn around and do something else with it and say it
mhm.
didn't work. My
Yeah.
thing is, it's not that it didn't work, it's that you didn't do what I
You didn't
said
follow it.
to do.
Yeah.
I laid it out. I gave you the cautionary tales. I predicted what would happen if you did it that way. I gave you everything that you would need to know, but that's where ownership comes in.
Mhm,
And that's where we start gathering that context. So
mhm,
one of the things that I think is really important is to be able to understand that and then start to leverage that. So I will give guidelines. So I love frameworks. What I have is what I call the 4 Cs, and it starts with clarity,
mhm,
it transitions into competence, and then competence leads to confidence, and
mhm,
then that confidence leads to consistency. So first you have to understand what you're looking at, then you have to know what to do with what it is that you're looking at,
mhm,
and then you get confident enough because let's be honest, if you're not confident and you're trying to sell something to someone,
mhm.
that's not really gonna work. It's
No.
if you don't believe in it, why would I believe in it?
Yeah.
And then once you get confident enough where you're able to say, "Okay, well, I know how to explain things. I know how to do this. I know how to do this," then you can get to the point where you can be consistent with it.
Mhm,
And it takes so many different forms in business where, for example, some examples, people know that you understand what you're looking at and you understand them when they go to like a website and you've got frequently asked questions, and those questions are actually relevant to everything that they were going to ask because they're like, "Oh, okay, so I'm not the first person to ask you that." No.
no.
No, been here before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So those are things that you're listening for. I love that you've talked about the patterns, but you've also framed it in a way that makes a lot more sense because I will say patterns, but it's really context and
Mhm,
understanding what it is that you're looking at. Because once you know that, then that leads to the frequently asked questions.
mhm.
That leads you to ask better questions.
Right.
There's a saying where it says, if you don't know the answers, you're probably not asking the right questions.
Right. Mhm.
Sometimes I realize that some people don't ask the right questions because they don't want the right questions. Because if they know the question and they know what the results are, then they're
Mhm.
responsible for whatever it is they're doing. It
Exactly.
almost falls under the category of what is it, better to apologize than to ask permission? It
Mhm.
is the business version of that, where they're like, well, I mean, I could ask that question, but then I would be responsible for knowingly doing something that
Yeah.
I'm generating revenue and I don't want to think about the consequences of how I'm generating it. I'd rather just
Mm.
focus on the fact that I'm generating revenue.
Mhm.
And that's where reputation management kicks in. That's why there is a whole
Does.
industry behind that because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people making a lot of money doing things a certain way and they end up rebranding or, selling
Mhm.
off the business or doing certain things and then coming back because they didn't build a business to scale, they built a business to sell,
Mhm.
and those are 2 completely different things.
Completely different. Yeah.